Is Jaylon Smith on his way to the Denver Broncos? That's the story we're talking about today. Mitchell Renz from Chat Sports, and you're watching Broncos Breakdown. Fansided threw out a fun little idea that the Broncos, they should go out and trade for Dallas Cowboys middle linebacker Jaylon Smith. The trade rumors have no doubt been swirling around him since Dallas drafted Micah Parsons in the first round, 12 overall, and they drafted Jabril Cox out of LSU, I believe, in round 4. I was a big fan of Cox, giggity, and it was actually a player that I wanted, or I thought was actually going to get drafted a lot higher. The biggest reason why Fanside decided to write this article here is because they sit there and say, the Broncos need a coverage linebacker, therefore, you need to go out and get Jaylon Smith. I'll give you my 2 cents on this idea coming up here, but first, this is what Fanside had to say on why the Broncos should trade for Jaylon Smith. The Broncos do not have an athletic coverage linebacker that they have needed for so long, and there is no guarantee that either Browning or Strand could be that guy. Both players might very well reach their full potential, but as we consistently see, players can sometimes take a few years to fully develop. Here's the other part of that quote. Jaylon Smith is an immediate impact player who has already shown what he can do in the NFL. He is precisely what Denver needs. He has 4.4 speed and is excellent in coverage. Now, when you look at these numbers here, right, in 2020, 154 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss, 0 forced fumbles, but then 2 fumble recoveries, you're sitting there like, wow, Jaylon Smith is an absolute monster, probably coming off the best year of his entire career. All I'm going to say is, you know what? Tackles can kind of be a very misleading stat, and it's one of those stats that everyone sees, oh, tackles. That doesn't always mean that he's doing a good job. That's all I'm saying. So what it says you, should Denver go out and trade for Jaylon Smith? You're like, you know what, man? I think so. It's absolutely what they need. I agree with Fansided. What I want you to do then is go down in the comments and type Y for yes. If you're like, well, I don't know if Jaylon Smith is actually what they need, I want you to go down and spam no. I'm going to sit here and say this. No. The Denver Broncos should not go out and trade for Jaylon Smith. Like, I get the idea of what Fansided needs to do here and there, and they need to make articles. It's all good. My job and everyone here at Chat Sports' job is to be able to find bad takes and kind of expose them and give you our 2 cents on them. Realistically, what happened here is this. Some guy found a number from what Jaylon Smith ran at the Combine. That's great or whatever. And just kind of is going off of that, and he's just looking at numbers. He's not actually watching the game. The other part of this conversation is you're going to pay Smith $7.2 million in 2021. I mean, at one time, maybe it was worth it. The other issue is the linebacker position is one of those positions that's probably the most easily and probably least important on your defensive side of the football. So I just don't really want to go out and pay $7.2 million for a linebacker. Now, when you look at the numbers, again, on the surface, 154 tackles, you're like, Mitch, why the hell would you not pay top dollar for this guy? 5 tackles for a loss, 1.5 sacks, 5 pass breakups. Those are great. Let's look at some advanced metrics, though. 9 missed tackles. Completion percentage, again, 71.2. So for Fanside, it's saying this guy is elite in coverage. I'm simply going to disagree with you. 438 yards, 3 touchdowns. What about 2020 PFF grades? If you don't care what I have to say, 54.2. How many people out there have gotten a 54.2 on a test? Now, I get it. PFF grades are a little bit different, but this is below average. Let's be realistic here. Run defense, pass rush, coverage grades, okay? How does that compare to 2019? I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a downfall. One of the biggest reasons why Jaylon Smith ended up falling in the draft is because, unfortunately, he had a really wicked knee injury, and I don't want to sit here and say that that could potentially be adding up and he's getting a little bit slower, he's lost a step, but I'm also going to sit here and say, I've watched him, he's losing a step, he's not as mobile as what he once was, and he can't cover the way that he used to. He was once one of the best linebackers in the league. Unfortunately, I'm starting to see that knee injury scare me a little bit. So the host of Dallas Cowboys Report, Tom Downey, he sat down with Harrison Graham here at Chat Sports, and they were kind of talking about, like, you know, what would you want from Smith? Like, what would Denver have to do? They call you up on the phone. They're like, hey, Jerry, there's this guy named Jaylon. We like him. We think he'd be a good fit for our defense. What do you want for him? What would you be willing to offer? They came to the agreement that, hey, you can have Jaylon Smith and you can pay him his contract, $7.2 million. We'll eat a little bit of that money if you give us a 5th-round pick. That should go to show you the value of what people here at, Chat Sports and what the guy that runs the Cowboys show actually thinks of Smith. So what do y'all think? Who wins this trade here? If you think it's the Denver Broncos, I want you to type B for Broncos. If you think it's the Dallas Cowboys, I want you to type C for Cowboys. I am going to go ahead and type C for Cowboys for the simple fact of you get a 5th-round pick, but you also clear $7.2 million for a player who, let's face it, was a below-average linebacker. And I get it. Dallas had a lot of issues on defense last year. There's no doubt about that, right? I mean, that's why they got a new defensive coordinator. But one of the biggest reasons why you're seeing struggles is because a guy like Smith, where he just simply could not cover over the middle of the field. If you're subscribed to Chat Sports, and you probably have seen us talk a lot about certain teams, certain channels. If you don't know, we actually have 16 team channels around here, so if you could, please go check all of them out. You're going to see down below here the links for all these channels here and how many subscribers that they have. If you're a Bears fan, one of the fastest growing channels we actually have here right now is our Bears channel, youtube.com/BearsNow. Maybe you're a diehard Seahawks fan. I know the 12s, man, they've been repping hard. 20.8 thousand subs. The link is below. Eagles fans, Chiefs fans, Dolphins, this channel has really been picking up as well. They're starting to catch Kansas City. So if you're a Chiefs fan out there like, wait a minute, I don't want to be caught by Miami, then go subscribe to our channels. But one of the things that I love that Chat Sports is able to do is we're trying to create more content for you. We're trying to create more channels. So how does that start? By ramping up new YouTube channels. So if you guys can tell here, Falcons Today and Browns Report, they're little baby channels, but guess what? Once the Cowboys Report had 942 subs. Once the Raiders Report had that. But once you guys show us that, all right, this is the good content, we'll continue to pump out more videos. So if you're a Falcons fan, if you're a Browns fan, if you're a Broncos fan, go subscribe to our channels. And then our really, really new channels here are Cardinals, Giants, Ravens, and Steelers. As you can see, I mean, Steelers has been kicking butt right now. They made a big-time jump. So if you guys are a fan of any of these teams here, please go ahead and subscribe. I also provided all the links for every single team. It's in the live chat. It's also in the description of this video here. So if you want to go out and check out more news around the Giants, got you covered. More stuff around the Baltimore Ravens, we got you covered. So bottom line, if you're looking to stay up to date on everything going on around your favorite teams, all you got to do is go ahead and subscribe, because guess what? We got a lot of content to be able to cover here around each and every one of these players here. So we're talking about the potential of Jaylon Smith being traded to the Denver Broncos here. You guys are watching NFL Daily by Chat Sports, and we're breaking it down because Smith is one of these players that has a lot of name value, and I get it. And when you look at his numbers, you're like, okay, this is one of the best linebackers in the league. But as I've stated multiple times, as I know Tom has stated multiple times on the Cowboys Report, you can't get caught in just the numbers. The other thing I really want you to really be able to look at here is like, okay, his numbers from 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017. Most people would look at this and they're like, okay, he's getting better every single year. Comes in as a rookie out of Notre Dame after a pretty wicked knee injury, doesn't play as much as a rookie, and then big-time years. I personally say I think his best season in the NFL was 2018. Him and Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, a lot of Cowboys fans were sitting there like, we're good at the linebacker position for the next 10 years with these two guys, right? I mean, I definitely thought so. I mean, they were incredible, that dynamic duo. And now, for the Cowboys, you're sitting there like, do we actually have a linebacker? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's a great question to be able to ask. But if you're really trying to be able to find a coverage linebacker, would you really want it to be Smith? I mean, as it stands right now, here's what the Broncos LB depth chart looks like. I'm still a believer Von Miller is going to be suiting up this year. Johnson is actually a player that I think could be a big-time sleeper if he gets a little bit more production. Smith's definitely not going to play over Chubb. The position that you'd really be looking at here is Jewell, and if you think that he's better than him, cool. But you also drafted Brandon Browning out of Ohio State, who I like. You also drafted Strand, and I get that there's some inconsistencies there. There's maybe some, you don't 100% know what you're going to get, but I'll take Browning and Strand over Jaylon Smith and save $7.2 million. But if you are going to go out and you are going to pay him this amount of money, you got to put him as a starter, and he's going to end up playing there probably next to Johnson, and maybe he gets back to full health. Maybe I'm 100% wrong. And you know what? He just had a bad year because the Cowboys didn't know what they were doing on the defensive side of the football, which, sure, that's a possibility. But also, if you watch the tape, I just think he's lost a few steps. So to the guy out there saying he's got 4.4 speed and he's an elite coverage dude, all I'm going to say is respectfully, I'm going to disagree. So do you guys play Madden out there? I mean, personally for me, I never played a lot of video games. I have a Nintendo 64. I technically have a Xbox as well, but I don't even know the last time I played it. But if you play Madden, what I want you to do is think about this. I want you to rate Jaylon Smith and how good he is from a scale from 0 to 100. 0 being that he's the worst linebacker in the National Football League. 100, he's one of the best. I'm probably somewhere around the 65, 67 type of range. If he could get better in coverage, he'd obviously be a little bit better for me. He also really struggled in the run last year. So what I want you to do, go down in the comment section right now. Let me know. Rate Jaylon Smith from a scale from 0 to 100.